Now, something interesting caught my eye today. The Labour Party are announcing a new policy. They want to introduce whole life orders for murders that have been connected to the police, prison or probation officers' current or former duties. Joining me now is Labour MP and Justice Minister Jake Richards. Good evening to you, Jake. Tell us more about this new policy you're announcing.
Well, good evening, Michelle. Look, what the government is announcing today is making sure that the full force of the law is felt when the most heinous crimes are committed, and that means when people who are working, who are serving their country, whether that be in prisons, whether that probation service or police officers, are murdered for doing their job. It's wholly horrendous when that happens, and we are today closing a loophole which allowed, luckily, just a very few offenders to escape that whole life sentence. And we're going to close that in the next few weeks in Parliament. I'm pleased that this change has cross-party support from the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats, and that will hopefully be done quickly, and we'll make sure that this can never happen again.
This has been triggered by that horrendous revenge murder of Lenny Scott. Many of my viewers will be familiar with that case. Lots of my viewers will applaud what you're doing. Of course, we wish you the very best with that. You're talking about prisoners. Let me ask you, 2 weeks ago, David Lammy told the media that I think the number was 12 prisoners had been mistakenly released from prison, 2 of whom were still at large out in the population. Have those 2 people been captured again?
Well, look, we're not going to be giving a running commentary on ongoing operations that the police and the prison service are undertaking. But what we are doing is taking action, because one release in error is one too many, Michelle. And that's why we've introduced a 5-point plan to try and deal with this. We've invested £10 million, which is starting to see effects in the system. And we've commissioned an independent report from a very senior retired police officer to look at what more can be done. And that's going to report early next year. But look, this is a long-running problem. It's been going on for many years now. There were 800 errors, release in errors made by the last government, and I'm not saying that we have solved it yet, but we have got a plan, we are taking action, and I expect to see more progress over the coming weeks.
Doesn't love a good plan, but that's not really what I'm asking you about. I'm asking you about the 2 prisoners that David Lammy told us had been released. We don't know anything about these men because for some reason you refuse to tell the public who these men are. In fact, actually, one would think that you might want people's help in trying to recapture them, but no, it seems not. I actually don't think it's good enough, and my viewers will probably agree with me. I don't think it's good enough when you tell the British public that 2 dangerous criminals, deemed dangerous enough to be locked behind bars for the public safety, I assume. I don't feel it's good enough that you just say, I'm not going to give you a running commentary as to where those guys are, whether or not they've been recaptured.
Well, Michelle, I can reassure you and your viewers that we are working very closely with the police on any release in errors, and we will take
so have you recaptured these 2 men then?
As to what is best in terms of communication. Well, Michelle, as I've said already, we're not going to be giving a running commentary on each given case. We take our advice from police and from the prison service as what is the best steps to take to ensure public safety, and I will continue to do that.
I think that's pretty appalling, actually, that we know that potentially dangerous criminals are amongst us, and we have no idea who they are, what they've done, who to look out for, and whether or not they're still even at large. One of the primary responsibilities of a government, as you will know, is to protect its citizens. Many of my viewers, we speak about this often, feel very strongly, you say absolutely, but many of my viewers feel that actually your government's policy, particularly when it comes to the border situation in the Channel, you are directly actually putting particularly women and girls at risk in this country. What do you say back to that?
Well, look, firstly, as I've said before, we deal very closely with the police, and I take advice very seriously from the police on how we deal with these matters and how we communicate these matters. In terms of dealing with the small boat crisis, absolutely, we've got to try and clamp down on that small boat crisis, and we were taking measures, and the Home Secretary announced really radical reforms just a few weeks ago that will begin to take effect as and when they are introduced through Parliament. And thirdly, today, the other news, Michelle, today is that this government has now deported more foreign national offenders than ever before. 74%
yeah, and most of them have gone off their own accord, and many of them we've had to pay for the privilege of. Anyway, look, that's really interesting. Let me just get back onto this point about the safety of women and girls.
You say pay for the privilege.
Yeah.
What I don't want to do, Michelle, is have people who come to our country, commit offences, and we end up having to pay for them to serve time in prison. No. Where we can, we should be getting them out of the country and return to where they came from. And that's what this government is doing. 74% increase compared to what the Conservatives managed, and will continue to do that with more measures to make it easier and quicker to get rid of foreign national offenders coming into Parliament next year.
Yeah, and my viewers don't really care about the Conservatives and what they did. They're toast now, they're gone. What my viewers care about is the fact that as a woman, as a parent who have got, I don't know why you're laughing because it's not funny actually, when you've got teenage girls that cannot even go to the park with their friends without being snatched away from their friends and sexually assaulted in bushes, when you've got 17-year-old girls that can't even walk the streets without a random Sudanese guy trying to snatch them off the street, the CCTV footage that we saw recently. My viewers are absolutely terrified for their own safety, for their children's safety, and for their grandchildren's safety. What do you say back to those viewers who feel very strongly that your government and the previous one is directly putting us, British citizens, at risk?
Well, we've got to do more to tackle violence against women and girls, and actually later this week the government will be setting out a really radical strategy to deal with that, to halve violence against women and girls over the next decade, and that's a really important part of this government's ambition. We've got to get more police on the streets to make sure that people do not feel unsafe in parks or at night or in their communities.
They do,
that's absolutely
Jake.
vital, and that's
you
why we're recruiting.
Jake,
But Michelle, that's why
unsafe.
we're recruiting 13,000 more police officers. Michelle, I know that too many people feel unsafe in their communities, and we're trying to take action to deal with that. It's why we're recruiting more police officers. It's why we've announced the harsher sentences for whole-life murderers of police officers today. It's why we're deporting more criminals from this country who shouldn't be here. It's why by the end of this Parliament we'll have more criminals locked up behind bars than ever before. So look, more work to be done, but I won't for a minute take the argument that this government is staying silent. We're taking action on law and order, and we're doing more than ever has been done before to keep this country safe.
Ipsos, a firm that I'm sure you'll be familiar with, they today released their 2026 predictions looking at the year ahead. They predict that they suggest that 3/4 of British citizens think that large-scale public unrest is going to occur next year. What do you think to that?
Well, look, I don't think there's going to be large-scale public unrest in our country. We've got big challenges in our country. We all know that, whether that's in the NHS, whether that's about immigration, whether that's about law and order and our economy. There are big challenges in this country. But I think we will solve those challenges by working together, by trying to unite as a country rather than divide one another. We face bigger challenges than we faced today before, whether that be in the Second World War, whether that even be before I was born during the Winter of Discontent. We faced challenges in the 80s with the miners' strike, and we faced challenges with terrorism when I was growing up in the 90s and noughties, and we face big challenges today. But this country is great, and we will meet those challenges, and we'll meet that by working together rather than dividing.
An armed forces boss, you'll know yourself, suggested that actually we are heading towards potential war and that we need to be preparing ourselves potentially to fight. He even says that more families will understand what it means to sacrifice for your nation. I imagine that a lot of those people, if indeed we did have to fight, would be the working class communities of this country. I can't help but notice, my viewers might have noticed too, that our Prime Minister seems to think that many of those working class communities are just far right people. Why should they stand up and fight for this government?
Well, I don't accept what you said at the end about the characterisation of working class communities. I represent working class communities in South Yorkshire and I'm very proud to do so. One of the challenges of which I was discussing just a moment ago is the fact that we face foreign aggressors closer to home than ever before. We have war in Europe, which is a modern phenomenon, but one that is incredibly worrying and threatens our democracy and our safety. And it's absolutely right that we invest more in our defence and we do prepare for whatever eventuality we may face in the coming years, and I'm not going to shy away from that. That's absolutely vital. But I think your viewers are proud to be British, they're proud to be English or Welsh or Scottish or from Northern Ireland, and I'm sure, like me, they would join any national effort in facing up to those countries abroad that want to do us harm.
Jake Richards, we very much appreciate you talking to our viewers tonight. Thank you for your time.
We're living in a time of what feels like pretty significant social change, and it makes us question things that we've even taken for granted for decades. And one of those at the moment that people are wondering about is actually money. Is the money in your bank account safe? Should you be investing elsewhere? Are we looking at a potential global crash? What will it mean for your savings? Is there a way that you could be using your money that might be outside of government control even? Well, TallyMoney is potentially one solution. So I'm delighted to say that I'm joined today by the CEO and founder of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. What is TallyMoney?
Well, at TallyMoney, you basically get gold you can spend. So we give people an individual account in their name, everyday account. They get a sort code, an account number. They use that account just like they would pounds from their bank, but it's milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. Why would you do that, though? What is the benefit to the customer instead of just having a normal pound sterling account?
Gold's performance against the pound is above 11% per annum over the last 25 years on average. But we still need money in our daily lives, and we have savings. We know that it's good common sense and prudent to save up for things, not just living credit. You know, whether it's a holiday or a rainy day, your retirement planning, you need to have money in your life, basically, that you can rely on, that's dependable, that nobody meddles with, that nobody can weaponize against you, which is another element of government control when it's the government currency, which we could talk about another time. And it should be pretty simple and straightforward, and that's what we deliver at Tally. And really, we just want people to feel safe and happy with their money. There was a time when the bigger your bank balance, the more confident you felt. Now it's like, I need to do something with it. I can't leave it there. In Tally, you can.
Okay, brilliant. Cameron Parry from TallyMoney. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bev.
Ladies and gents, what do you think to what you're hearing there from the Justice Minister? Your thoughts?
Well, there's an awful lot there, to be honest with you, but, on the reason he came across, they're going to bang people up for longer. Well, they're just not, are they? They're releasing people early. Where are they going to put all these new... what did he say?
So what he's
going to have more criminals locked up. Where's he going to put them?
What he's talking about specifically, and actually, if any of you are not familiar with the case, look it up. It's a guy called Lenny Scott. He was a convicted criminal. Long story short, a prison officer basically took a mobile phone off him. The prisoner, basically, I'm paraphrasing for time reasons, but he basically said, I'll get you down the line, and he did indeed. He shot and killed this man. This man was a father of very young children, and this is the kind of case that's been the catalyst for this. So I actually support that policy. I think it's a very good thing. Many people, they might work in, the emergency services or whatever. They might be looking at this and saying, well, why is it only the former police, prison and probation officers? Many people actually work on the front lines to try and keep Brits safe. Scarlett?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think that actually one has to understand that when one kills a policeman or a prison officer, a police officer or a prison officer, that's the end of it. That's basically the end. I mean, they know. I mean, as far as locking them up goes, there's luckily very, very few cases of that. Those people will be held. They will be held there for good. The people who are being let out of prison because there's not enough prison places, because there haven't been enough prison places for decades, are the people who are reaching the end of their sentence. These people will never reach the end of their sentence. That's what a whole life thing is. And we have to be really careful with whole life sentences. They have to be special. They can't say, oh, and we'll do this and we'll do this, so that they become, oh, well, you'll be given a whole life sentence, because then one is left with what the prison officers don't want. They don't want people who are in prison without any hope of release. I mean, that is a bad thing. So we want to keep it to very, very few.
Well, I wouldn't be having prisoners with a whole kind of sitting there, oh, I've got no hope of release. If I was in charge of this country, I would have a return to the death penalty. Thank you very much for some of these prisoners that have awful crimes when they're raping, killing, murdering children. They'd be gone. I don't appreciate, actually, the Justice Minister there not telling the British public whether or not those two prisoners have been recaptured? I mean, I can only assume that the answer to that is no, they haven't, because if they've recaptured them, they'd be desperate to tell me, to tell the viewers that they've recaptured them. What do you think? Do you think we should know those details or not?
Of course we should. You know, where's the transparency in this? But more importantly, we don't know what they've done. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they've been, where they're going. And this creates great fear amongst people. People will be afraid to go out in the daytime because they don't know if they're going to bump into one of these two criminals, and
you won't know who they are. This is one of the things that gets me. I'm going to have a little rant now, so do forgive me and indulge me. I do feel that we've got our priorities a little bit skew-iff in this country, because if you imagine this kind of social contract that people allude to, it is supposed to be that if you do right and proper, if you work hard, if you contribute into the system, if you're a law-abiding citizen and all the rest of it, then this country, this system should look after you in return. I feel, and I feel increasingly so actually, Scarlett, that we seem to be good, honest, decent people, seem to be getting deprioritized all the time. Why should the identity and all the rest of it of these two absolute wrong-uns, they must be wrong-uns or else they're not being sent to prison for no reason. So why is the privacy and all the rest of these wrong-uns put above normal British people? Why should we not be told who these people are, where they are lurking, what they've done, and how we can help capture them where required?
Because, as he says, the police and the prison office, the prison service, are saying we don't want to release those names. I have absolutely no idea. But can I say that in general, I do think that if one is a reasonable, upstanding citizen, that actually we do get looked after. And having lived in this country for rather longer than yes, I mean, yes, I do. Really? I do.
How? Tell me, like, how so? Because I genuinely don't feel like that, actually. I feel like, actually, the desires, I feel like, actually, we have a country where the tail wags the dog, where all of these minority groups, whoever they are, seem to get prioritised over the majority population. You get all of these people that come in on these not-so-small boats. They get fast-tracked often to NHS healthcare, where my viewers, they'll be sitting there for God knows how long in pain, often chronic pain and all the rest of it, down the back of the queue. I just don't. I feel like the priority order is wrong.
No, I don't think the facts actually bear you out. I think that's how it feels, and I don't think. I think, as Jake said, they're sending back people massively now.
No, they're not.
They are.
No, they are. When he says we're sending people back, and that's what I said to him, he says, we're returning foreign. I can't remember what his word was. We're returning foreign migrants, whatever, at record levels. What they fail to mention, and it happens all the time, is that actually what is happening is, yes, people are leaving at a rate of knots, but that is often voluntarily, point one. Often the government don't even realise they've gone. And then often, point three, we've had to pay for them to leave. That's not really strong government policy, is it?
Surely getting rid of them is, as he says, what do you want? Do you want them in jail where we have to pay for them, or do you want them gone? Actually, we want them gone. And that's what's happening. But I think all this thing about minority groups getting more than, frankly, white people, I just don't think it's right. I just don't think it's correct, and I think we can go on and on about it, right?
I will go on and on about it, actually. I think this... I will. I make no apologies for it. Yeah. I think this country is heading in absolutely the wrong direction. I feel like it gets worse and worse and worse every day. I feel like almost there's barely a day or a week goes by when I don't pick up the paper or look online or whatever and see yet another case of some migrant asylum seeker guy raping, sexually assaulting young girls. It sickens me.
So why don't we, in that case, so every 3 days a woman is killed by a man, by a partner or ex-partner. Do we read about that? No, right? There is the number of women and girls who are being assaulted by white people as well as brown people and black people is appalling. Do we talk about... No, we talk about the minority of people who are... I mean, I think it's 59. I would feel better if we actually talked about the real problem about violence against women and girls in this country, because it's not a race thing. It's not it's actually about the way women and girls are treated.
My job is not to make you feel better. My job is to try and have the conversations that people are having at home, to try and raise the issues that people are passionate about. And you're telling the wrong person when it comes to domestic abuse, because, as is public knowledge, I spent my whole childhood on a social services at-risk register because of in-home domestic abuse. I've been in domestic violence shelters as a child, and I've been an ambassador for Women's Aid domestic violence charities. So nobody knows better than me the scourge, the cancer, the disgusting nature of domestic violence that affects this country. And what I would say back to that, it is because we have so many sick, twisted, disgraceful British individuals that we absolutely, therefore, should not be importing any foreign ones to add to that mix as well. That's what I would say to that.
That's fine. As long as we recognise that actually most women are raped or killed or assaulted
Why do you
by
feel I need
British
to do this, by
people.
the way? When I'm talking about 17-year-old girls wandering back from wherever they've been, their friend's house or whatever, when I'm talking about teenage girls sitting in a park with their friends getting snatched off by foreign migrant men or whatever the terminology is, why do you feel the need to tell me that most perpetrators are white men?
Because I just want people to understand that there is a whole wave of violence against women and girls, but most of the perpetrators are not foreigners. That's all I'm saying, is that actually, if we really want to be frightened, then you can be frightened of everybody. And I remember when my daughter was a teenager, and I would drive her anywhere. She'd go, oh no, I'm going to walk to a friend. And if it was dark, I'd be really scared. But actually, I didn't even think what nationality that person was. I was just frightened of men.
I think it's quite a do-gooder mentality. When anyone tries to raise the awareness and the concern of these men. I mean, I don't know how much of this footage you've seen. I've seen footage of a girl, I think it was at Liverpool station, I think she was about 19, some guy literally trying to snatch her away. You will have seen the CCTV footage of the guy that got sentenced, I think it was the day before yesterday, yet again, another teenage girl, just minding her own business, wandering along. Bus passengers had to literally wrestle this teenage girl off this guy. You've seen that case in Leamington Spa, 15-year-old girl snatched off by these guys. It just irks me that you then feel a need to say, well, yes, Michelle, but loads of domestic abusers are white British men. I don't understand what. Well,
what I'm saying is that you're saying it as though the reason we should be frightened, and we should be frightened for our daughters, is foreigners. Whereas what I'm saying is the reason I was frightened is just because I think there are a lot of, as you say, twisted men out there.
I think there's something going wrong in this country, and I think it is as a direct result of government policy. This government, previous government, they don't get off lightly either when it comes to my anger on this issue. I think it's absolutely disgusting, and I do not deny nor dispute that there are many British wrong-uns. Some of you, in fact, will have experienced domestic violence yourself. It's a cancer on society. It needs to be absolutely squashed. But to me, this is such a distinct issue from the fact that teenage girls, increasingly, it feels like to me anyway, seem to be getting attempted to be snatched off the street. I mean, you can make your own minds up, different opinions, always welcome on Tubes & Co. Join the conversation in all the usual ways.